I didn't like it as much in Skyward Sword, but again, I think I'll like it more in this one because it's more fleshed out. That kind of stuff to me was a little bit more linear, especially with upgrading of the swords, the main sword.
Wasn't that the
It
whole
was part of the
game?
story, yeah. It was part of the
I mean, that was it was part of the story, but I think because it looks like there's going to be a lot more weapons, in this game, obviously. So I think it'll be more fleshed out, and to me, it'll probably end up being better. I like it more than I liked it in Skyward Sword. So.
And I want to just be quick before we go any further. I see a lot of people asking non-Zelda questions, asking about Sony, Microsoft. We're going to cover that next week. So questions, if you have any comments or questions, just keep it on the Zelda topic for this podcast. We're not going to go into our thoughts on the press conferences and stuff until next week.
For today, yeah.
Yeah.
But we will do that for sure.
Just wanted to.
Yeah, I like the. I do like what they're doing with the weapon thing in the sense that it's further building on the whole open world, organic sort of implementation of like your Link in this Zelda game, which is supposed to be so different. I think it's really cool, and it makes it so you always probably have a full inventory and a bunch of stuff to choose from. However, I still really hope that ultimately we get a couple of like staple weapons. I want to know I have a sword that isn't going to potentially break, and maybe I get a special sword that has a cool name or some story implementation that maybe even that isn't the Master Sword. And like a really kick-ass Hylian shield or some kind of shield that can always be my shield for this purpose. And a bow and arrow that does the same thing. So I'm kind of sort of asking for like the best of all worlds, and I want to have my cake and eat it too. But I think it's possible that they do that. If it's just random weapons where nothing really matters and you get to keep nothing forever, I do like it, but I think that something would still be missing if you never get a sword you can always have.
I totally agree with you. That's my one worry is that it always felt special to get that bow, that hero's bow, or that stuff always felt special, and I'm that's the one thing I was worried about. I'm glad you brought that up, Rob. Is that it won't feel special getting these items. It'll just feel like, all right, this is another item I'm going to use for a little while and toss it.
Yeah,
like just nonchalantly and treasure. It was a treasure. God.
Yeah, just
treasure chest.
And it was like it opens just partly. All of a sudden, he's got a bow, and he's got the arrows, and I was
no
like,
big deal, no parade, just
no confetti.
Yeah, no confetti. Just here's a bow. Go ahead, get out of here.
I guess hopefully when you get the arrow shown, the with the blue light and stuff, hopefully that's a little bit more of a moment.
Yeah. And maybe it's going to be more about the projectiles as far as the bow goes than an actual bow itself. I don't know.
Sure, like you get the super special arrows, and now you always have them or something.
And we're totally coming at this from longtime Zelda fans expecting Zelda. So we at some point we're just going to have to let go of that. But
when they started that with Skyward Sword, it was already tearing that stuff away a little bit.
But I think that it's still okay to be excited for new changes, like new changes to the convention, and like want those things, but also still want a couple of things that still feel Zelda. I think that a balance is hopefully going to be struck, and they're not throwing everything out the window that's worked for so long. And like building off what you said, T, when you get an item and it feels special, what's always been great about Zelda games is now the whole game changes after you've gotten this thing. Your whole rest of your dungeon experience is built around using this idea in a cool way. And I think it's cool to change it up a little bit and say, oh, you can find a lot of different weapons and they break and you can replace them and change what you want to use. But I think there's an element of what they've always done that still should hopefully be involved to a degree. I don't want them to throw it out the window. Yeah. So that's kind of, I think, where we're coming at it from, right? That's what I think.
And I mean, this is all natural. I mean, we felt this way back in the day when Metroid Prime became it was a third-person action game, and then became first-person. What the hell are you doing in my Metroid?
Yeah, what you doing?
So, and we're obviously over that now. So, and it still felt like Metroid.
And it's the tricky thing because like we probably ultimately trust Nintendo to do the right thing. If anything, everything they've showed us today fills us with a lot of hope. I feel great about this Zelda. I feel great about it, but I still wonder about some of those little things. So
and I should have just brought this up at the beginning. Not with just the items and stuff, is the clothing, and It one of the clips that they uploaded is called Exploration Gameplay on the Nintendo's YouTube channel. The cold weather shirt is actually a green tunic with like a white undershirt, like Under Armour. So there is a green tunic, and it looks pretty similar to the hero's tunic, but it's just the cold weather tunic, so he can go into this snowy region without losing health as he gets cold. So in the trailer they showed armor and they showed various different combinations.
They showed some serious armor in that trailer.
Yeah.
So I really don't think, like, I think it was even before we started, someone said, they think the green tunic's going to come in. I think it's just whatever you want to put on him is what the armor, I would think, would be the thing you'd want on.
Yeah, actually, that would make sense because they did say, I think it was when Link was around naked, quote unquote. One of them had said, it's like, well, that man's like, yeah, you could beat like a dungeon boss in this. Like, yeah, you could beat the game being naked if you really wanted to.
See, yeah, they did say that. Yeah, they
that's
did.
what I'm talking about. That's that stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, that's really cool because
you messing with my emotions, Nintendo.
Oh, Lord.
Don't be changing those things, man. Now come on.
And it sounds like they probably are. And like, I'm gonna be the weird one here and kind of say that I sort of like that, even though I really do hope the tunic shows up at some point. But to me, it shows how this really isn't a new game mechanic, because that's something that the Dark Souls games do. Like, you can take the weakest weapon, you can take a stick and go in your underwear and try to go through that game, and some people do that. And I think this is a cool element of other games to borrow and put in this new Zelda, because it's the kind of thing that has worked for other games, and Zelda, I think, has earned the right to maybe borrow a couple of conventions from other games and try to implement it into the Zelda formula. So maybe because I'm a Dark Souls fan, I'm like, that's cool.
Now.
I know. I hear
There's some things about Zelda that are particularly Zelda. One, the Master Sword. You can't mess with the Master Sword, man. Do not mess with the Master Sword.
With that. It better be in this game.
And don't mess with the hero. It's the hero's tunic. They talk about it in every Zelda game as that being that rite of passage, that step over moment when you become the hero, the green tunic. Like, that was a big part of the game.
I agree.
You take that away. I'm gonna be a little bit.
I'm not saying it might still be in the game, but it may not be in the same way as we remember it.
It might be a different looking tunic. I'm fine with that, but it better be green.
Well, because Miyamoto had came by during the stream and had mentioned how this game shares a lot of similarities with Zelda 1, which might explain why it's the way it is in the first place.
Yeah.
It's very, you kind of have to figure everything out on your own in that sense, and I think that's the reason why it's open-ended.
Well, but what about the story? I mean, that's the one thing they have yet to touch on, and I hope they do that before the week is over.
I think they're not going to.
No, they said a later date.
They're not gonna talk about the story.
Oh, you know what? That's gonna be the NX reveal and the NX version.
Probably.
I think they're just gonna have directs, Zelda directs, explain different aspects. That's
I think they're trying to. I think they want you to experience the story on your own, so they're not talking too much about it.
They said they will talk about characters and stuff more at a later date.
That's good, because that's where I'm going to 100% agree with T, and the fact that that's the kind of thing that needs to be present. I'm dying to know the context here. Like, I want the story. And to me, the story is when you get that whole I have to become the hero, which means I have to put on the green tunic and do the whole thing. So I really hope we get an idea of that.
Well, that's why I think this is going to be so different, because the way we see this game start, you just kind of wake up and shit. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't think it's going to be like a simple...
I wish they hadn't shown that, actually.
I do wish they hadn't. I said that to a guy at work.
Yeah, you're saying. Yeah. See, I don't mind it. Juice and I talked about it a little bit before you guys came in earlier. He said, Juice, you were like, I kind of wish they didn't show that stuff. And my whole approach is either A, they might slightly alter it, or B, it's so like one-dimensional and simple that I don't feel like much was ruined personally. Maybe they change it vastly and then it doesn't matter. Also,
waking up in a sleep tank or whatever that was. I was like,
that was
that right now.
I like this idea because it gives me a reason to explore more. Because maybe I can learn more about the world I'm in now and where was I at? Why did this happen to me in the first place?
Yeah, I definitely.
Is Link an android? What the hell is going on?
I am a Link robot.
It was interesting to see that. but as soon as I saw it, I was like, I wonder if this is actually 100% how the game's going to begin, and if it is, I wanted to experience that myself. I was a little bummed.
That makes sense. That's what I really believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but if I was going to guess, I feel like it's going to be slightly different. I just feel like something's going to change. Maybe there's probably an opening cutscene that explains it, or maybe the room is different and the words that lady says to you are different, and maybe the cave you come out of is slightly in a different place. I mean, who knows? Maybe not. But it makes me hope that that's what they're doing, and they didn't actually show us exactly what happens when you press start, and then there's something more to it.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's later in the game, and something happened to you before that. That would be cool.
True.
That would be different. I wouldn't be expecting it.
And it will. That kind of leads into the lack of tutorial that Red Knight. I'm very happy to see because. He just recently started Twilight Princess when we all kind of played it back in March.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was talking in one of his podcasts about how he hopes they don't have that or had a more streamlined version. And it looks like there's just no tutorial other than when you get an item for the first time. And it could be just the demo. It shows on your screen what button to press on your gamepad.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't think there will be a tutorial. I think it's pretty much confirmed. You just start the game, and
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think that part of it is a good thing. That's
a good choice. That's a good change.
Yeah. But I also, getting back to the clothing, we didn't really talk about the hot and cold aspect a whole lot. We've seen that in other games where you can't go to the was it Ocarina of Time that had a red tunic for the
Metroid. To go to and Metroid for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I like it how you can still go. You just run the risk of freezing. Well, they even do the cool thing where you can make a fire and bring a torch, and even if you're not wearing the right clothing, if you got the torch on with you, then you're good. And apparently
that's awesome. I didn't see that.
If you eat spicy food, it'll gives you 10 minutes where you can stand to be in the cold.
For spicy food?
Yeah.
Oh
it's crazy, man.
That's really cool, though. That's great stuff to add to Zelda. I love that
outside the box stuff.
Right, and I love his. Yeah. I love Link's animations. If you're running and you run out of stamina and you pause the game to switch out your weapons, when you see the image of Link, he's sitting there all worn out and everything.
Yeah, and when he was cold, he was shivering.
I'm watching right after the sunset they missed, and he went into a little cave under these waterfalls, and his cheeks are rosy because he's in the cold. And right now the moonlight's lighting up the area, casting shadows, and it's freaking amazing.
And that's ridiculous. Why the art style is so good and works for this game. You couldn't really do that with a quote unquote realistic without it looking kind of weird, kind of creepy.
Yeah. And we didn't. We were talking about weapons and stuff. We didn't really talk about the bombs and stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, they're square bombs, so they don't roll because there's a lot of slopes and a lot of unflat surfaces. Non-level surfaces, I should say. So you can build basically a square bomb, and it's out of that blue energy. And there's a meter where you can't plant another bomb until that meter refills. I don't know if anybody noticed that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah, so it's almost like in A Link Between Worlds, you had the magic gauge, but you could still throw 3-4 bombs, and then once your magic gauge got to the bottom, you had to wait until it built back up. But this one's a cooldown period between bombs, and they're definitely blue light energy like everything else.
I'm just surprised at the amount of stuff you're getting so early game, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they just got the fire arrows.
Well, those are the things that make me think that this is kind of just a demo. The pace of this stuff is kind of done for the demo. Yeah. It might not come so fast and furious with the final game, I think, and it makes me think of, and I think Juice and T, you might be the only ones to even remember this. When Metroid Prime 2 was coming out, there was this thing where if you signed up for the Nintendo Club way back in the dial-up days, they would send you a demo disc for Metroid
Prime 2.
The demo disc, yeah, and I had that thing. It's somewhere I have it. It's probably worth a lot of money.
I still have it.
But I actually have that.
You do?
Yep.
Holy cow. That's impressive. Anyway, the point, the reason I bring that up is, and because I'm such a Metroid fan, I played that demo 300 times. It was 15 minutes long. You got into one battle. And what that was is they took a bunch of rooms that in the final game were in completely different places, and they placed them one after another in every door. You walk through a door, you go into a room, you walk through the next door, it's another room. And the succession you went through those rooms in the demo was completely different from the final version of the game. Yeah. Granted, this is now, 12 years ago, so maybe they don't do that anymore, but I just wonder if that idea is what they might be doing with the E3 demo, where they've put everything in a different place. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that makes a lot of sense. I mean, even think about if they did like I don't think they did, but they did a demo for the first Metroid Prime, and you were put on the space station. Like you had everything, right? You had all your weapons, and you lose them all, and by the time you get off of that thing, so you have to go back and find everything. So if that was the demo, you would think, oh man, I got all this stuff already, like
I start off
I got to look forward to. Yeah. So I mean that makes a lot of sense. It is a demo.
Well, they did.
I'm sure they worked on it specifically for E3.
Like getting the what did they call it? It's not the sailcloth anymore. It's some kind of glider.
The sail glider, I think. No.
They kind of talked about how you get that by these orbs you get in the shrines, and but as far as I think you're just gonna find arrows and the bow right away. I don't think that's...
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I think there's going to be certain items that are a bigger deal than others. But like Terrell, you're talking about the Link's animations and stuff. I'm continuing to... I got this video playing off to the side, and he was battling what are the skeletons?
Stalfos?
Stalfos.
Yeah.
In the moonlight, and just like how fluid and smooth Link moves when he's in the combat. We really didn't talk about the combat. It looks like kind of some old stuff we've seen before, some new, like the slowdown technique and the stamina built in. Looks like a lot more different ways to attack. You can use physics for rolling boulders, and your bombs roll, based on the environment and stuff. So there's a lot of variety. It looks like in how you fight and battle.
I'm wondering if the strategy guide is going to be as unintuitive as Xenoblade Chronicle X's strategy guide, because there's so much stuff in that game, and it looks like a ton of stuff in this game. They're talking about what we've seen is 1% of the area.
Yeah, the map is like 1%.
As far as the map, yeah.
Right, as far as the map goes. So like. I'm just wondering if there's going to be a strategy guide, obviously. What is that thing going to be massive, or is it just going to be really unintuitive like Xenoblade Chronicles?
Well, I'm hoping that it's tough, because Xenoblade Chronicles is probably still going to be the more complicated game.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason that strategy guide might be a mess. And since this one is like Nintendo proper first party, maybe they've also done this for Zelda games a couple times before. I hope that they put it together in a better way, because you make a good point. Like, that stuff can get out of hand sometimes. So hopefully they have a good team doing it.
I like to beat the game as much as I can, and then go back and use a strategy guide to get all the stuff I didn't.
I mean, I remember when Twilight Princess came out, I bought the fancy edition for that, the Wii version, back when it launched, and we used that to find all the bugs, because we wanted to get all the bugs, and it was like, you never would have found all the bugs without it, especially the one at the Temple of Time, which is a one-time bug. You got one chance to get this one bug.
I love those.
Yeah, and it was like, thank God we read that in that strategy guide. We would have been screwed.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. We've talked about the world a bit. We didn't really talk about the wildlife, which they showed, in the trailer, some hunting, and
that was strange, man.
Sneaking up to a horse, a wild horse, and jumping on, and the ducks and some deer and stuff. So I'm trying to think, really, in other Zelda games, how much wildlife has there ever really been, other than some small critters in there?
Yeah,
critters, birds.
Yeah, like there was some certain upgrades in Skyward Sword you had to get by like capturing birds with the net and stuff, and that was like planting seeds of wildlife, I think.
So like this is definitely taking it to
a whole nother level.
Now they want it to feel alive, like really alive.
It was so weird to see like Link fire an arrow at at a animal and it not burst into a smoke plume, and like it just fell over. I was like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah, but they do burst into a.
They do eventually, but it was, yeah.
But I think that's a cool addition. That I'd like to think there's like some eagles or some other majestic animals somewhere that they didn't show us yet, but. It almost gave me that Tomb Raider feeling, because in Tomb Raider there's just constantly rabbits and deer running by
everywhere. Same thing in The Witcher, actually.
So I think
exactly. I love how I do love how he sneaks up to you could literally just sneak it up to a horse and ride the horse, a wild horse.
Yeah.
They make it feel so alive because they are just like in herds and they just kind of run around and you could kill them. I mean, if you want.
I wonder if you can shoot a horse and kill it.
Yeah, I actually didn't try that, right? So I wonder.
Probably. No, they only shot like boars.
I actually hope not.
Yeah,
that would be weird.
It'd be pretty gruesome, man. Yeah, people love their horses.
I gotta do
but
that.
But it won't hit the tree though, man. It won't hit those trees.
It's important.
No
trees.
Wild pigs, yeah, that's fine, but not horses.
Yeah, and when it didn't like stick in it, the arrow, it was just like it made the metal sound and like almost like a.
So they make it like less gruesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a nice touch. One thing we really haven't touched on is the tablet, the Sheikah tablet. That's you have
the
that.
iPad, the Hyrule iPad.
So they showed how you upgrade it through some of the shrines, and it can open new abilities. And it's almost like it is technology because it like downloads. They say you go to a shrine and it like updates the tablet with.
Let's call it what it is. It's an app store. Okay, all shrines are apps.
It's an app store.
So, but then it like it didn't really explain how that magnet kind of worked through that. Like, they didn't really. I mean, I don't.
Well, no, he got it as like a reward for doing.
Yeah, but I didn't see like. It looked like he was holding a blue light shaped like a magnet, and they didn't really explain how. How the tablet turned into a magnet. Like they didn't really explain the energy source and stuff, which I think would be probably story spoilers.
That's the shape of the NX controller.
The NX controller. Yeah.
I thought it was like a projection or something.
It looks like a projection of that blue energy, and they didn't really go into detail. But so I wonder what other ideas or uses you'll get out of that tablet. It seems like kind of like the Swiss Army knife.
It's a Swiss Army knife. Yeah.
You scan it like your key card to get into a shrine.
Yeah.
I feel so weird seeing that in a Zelda game. Like, you got that a little bit in Skyward Sword, obviously, with the robots and
the time stones, which was so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to probably go crazy with this thing, like in a really good way. And seeing the magnet idea to me, especially if when I was rewatching the trailer from the link you sent earlier, again, it was only the second time I'd even watched the trailer. It showed an ability that I don't think they've live streamed from that thing, where he created this like he brought a pillar up out of nowhere and climbed on the pillar.
Turns it to ice.
No, they showed it, but they showed it like it was like one of the last streams they did.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, really?
It's like an ice thing because it freezes the water. And you can kind of.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's freezing the water and like creating a block of ice, and you can use it to run and climb off of.
Yeah,
but there you go. Like,
I was gonna say he climbed up that sheet of ice. Like it was.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really talk about the climbing mechanic yet.
Well, you can climb on anything. That's.
Yeah, it just seems like there's no.
But they were kind of alluding to that you couldn't climb on anything. If certain things
That's not what I
think in the shrines. I think in shrines
you can't, but anything outside, pretty much.
Yeah, in the shrine. That's what I was trying. Yeah, thank you, Terrell. In the shrines, you have to manipulate the environment to get up stuff because you can't climb everything in the shrine. But you're telling me you can climb a block of ice and then with no problem?
Hey man, inconsistency is a bitch, ain't
it? I just think that when you look at the magnet ability and then you look at this ice pillar creating ability, it's like, dude, like those things are so opposite of each other and they're all coming from this one item. And when they talk about, oh, there's 100 mini dungeons and there's 4 huge temple dungeons, like I feel like they're gonna come up with a lot of clever things to do with that tablet. So
did y'all even see the lock ability where it kind of like freezes an item or a thing?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I heard about it.
It's like there's like this part of the shrine where like there's a whole bunch of spiked balls coming, but they're coming down like this singular tunnel, and you can use the lock item to freeze one of the spiked balls that kind of blocks the path for like a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
It's
like
almost
freeze it like in time, not freeze it like ice, right?
Yeah, it freezes like in time. Because it's time, like I think you got like a minute or so before it cuts off and everything kind of reverts back to normal. But,
and that was something that came from one of the shrines, right? Like downloaded from the shrine.
Yeah, that was a reward for going through the shrine.
Well, they showed that outside, and they showed it like I think that was the power where they held like some kind of ball, and he hit it, I think, with the axe, and it went flying across like the world.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I've seen that GIF.
It's like you freeze it, and you're still doing the damage to it.
Yeah,
and then it kicks off, and it's like wow.
And it literally just zooms, so you could technically imagine you have a herd of enemies, and then you gotta aim it towards them, and just boom, knock all of them out. That would be awesome, like bowling almost. Then.
It's almost like
can't you like go fishing with that thing too? Like
you can actually, I know you can collect
stuff out of the water, not like fish, but like.
No, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's that sick ability where the magnet thing creates like this sort of grid on the ground, and you can see into the water.
That is so weird to see in a Zelda game.
Dude, no, but I love it. And when
it's cool, but it's so weird.
Think about a temple built around that where you have to find things hidden behind walls and I know, bro, it's so freaking cool, man.
Did you see the dropping bomb in the water to fish like with dynamite?
Yeah, you can kill the fish.
Yeah, like dynamite. No.
It's almost like Crocodile Dundee.
So much stuff. There's so many ways to approach this game.
I like the difference between the normal bomb and the square bombs. Where the square bomb's like a remote one. So like the rolling one, like the ball one is kind of like a traditional. You throw it and it rolls and it goes off. Whereas the square one's kind of like a remote one where you just set it off in the corner and walk away and be like, I'm gonna just blow this up when someone gets near it.
Watch when those idiots just walk into it or something.
Yeah. See, and that's cool. That it reminds me of a lot of the inventive things. I know it's taken a step backwards, but we undersell a lot of the cool things that Skyward Sword really did do, and having like the oh my god, what's that thing? The bug thing the scarab. That's what it is. Jesus Christ.
Scarab.
Yeah, the scarab that could carry bombs and stuff like that's like the genesis of these bigger ideas that I think are showing up in this game. So I feel like Nintendo's been building to these kinds of things for a long time. And this is the game with the scope and the control ability to really start going crazy. And this tablet is kind of, like you guys said, like their Swiss Army knife to be like, every cool idea we've ever wanted to do, this one thing can do it, organically by updating it throughout the world. And I just think that they're going to have a lot of really awesome ideas that we'll see.
So the fact that it's a tablet, do you think that had anything to do with the gamepad?
I do.
I think it had everything to do with the gamepad.
Yeah,
even though they're not showing it to us
yet. It is the gamepad.
It is the gamepad. Yeah, and I talked about this on my video about it earlier today too. It's not the first game that we've seen on the Wii U to do something like that, where they kind of like have a fake gamepad in the game, like Zombie U did it,
Yeah.
I think the Wind Waker did it.
Pikmin 3 did it.
Pikmin did it, yeah, and like I think that's a great way to make the gamepad feel more natural.